No,
That's
but
true. That's fact.
I'm saying, culturally, the only, even white people and Latino people, okay, do not accept that. The only group, the only amalgamous group that accepts that, and women, our women expect us to accept that, is here in the United States, which is the African American male. Yeah, we expect him to accept a woman with three different baby daddies.
And you feel like that the bigger, I guess the bigger message there is they're expected to accept mediocrity.
What's cracking, people? It's your man, Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, representing high-level technicians operating globally and beyond. So listen, today I want to get into a conversation that I just casually listened to, but I must say he has done it again. And what I'm referring to is this clip taken from the podcast that I'm going to reference. I'll leave the link down below, where the master teacher BGS Did was having a conversation with the podcast host, and this particular quote came out. Now, of course, I'm going to play a bit more just to bring it home and truly highlight what really sparked this particular response from me. But before we go to the remainder of this clip, I want to point out that first, the conversation surrounding the stepdad was a conversation that was started by none other than Kevin Samuels. At least it was amplified and highlighted at a high level when he spoke about men positioning themselves to only accept women who qualify for the position of the union. Not a partnership, no, but a union. Okay, that's another conversation for another day. But the other thing that I want to highlight is that when we talk about the role of stepdad and our tribe or our community, there is a second side to the conversation. And unfortunately, Kevin Samuels did not have enough time to engage this next part of the conversation. But here we are, fully poised to get into this side of the conversation. Now, before I move forward, I want to say this, and I will have this on repeat for the foreseeable future moving forward, and that is this: game is the philosophical curriculum for the common man. All of the collaborative conversations that we've been having and understanding, identifying, and deconstructing so many issues that have riddled these spaces for so many years are coming to a point of reconciliation. And I think that this is the most important part of our overall dialogue, creating language and identifying new structures that allow us to express our philosophies. Okay, so without further ado, here's the next part of that conversation.
No, that is okay. That is a survival tactic for our group, right?
Mm-hmm.
One man leaves, or they can't stay together. Okay, he splits. He takes another woman with another family that has, that doesn't have a man. He just slots himself in. And she will pick another man. He'll slot himself into the family. Okay, that's what got us through the crack era. When all them dudes went to jail or got cracked out or stuff like that, they had babies and families. Okay, black men just filled in the gap because that's our culture.
Boom. That is exactly the point that struck a chord with me. And instead of waxing philosophical, let's get down to the core reality of this situation. And it starts, obviously, with the fact that the men of our tribe could be sold at any point in time pre-Civil War. The fact that the men of our tribe could be disappeared for attempting to form labor unions during the time of sharecropping. The fact that our men could be disappeared from their families for standing up against injustices during the civil rights era. And as BGS Did mentioned in his discussion, when the crack era hit, the fact that not only could a man be removed from the home due to succumbing to drug abuse, but also the distribution of drugs due to economic disenfranchisement. But I want to take away the key factor here that was mentioned, and that we have a culture of men stepping up and stepping into the gap and fulfilling that role within lockstep of other men who were not able to fulfill those roles for extenuating factors. I know this personally because I lived this truth myself. My stepdad, rest his soul, stepped in when substance abuse took my biological father out of the picture. He came right in and assumed the role of leader within the broken family structure, and showed us what a true alpha is, and I mean that by every sense of the word. He would tell us stories about how he used to work out with Lee Haney. He taught us how to defend ourselves with boxing, introduced us to the Chicago Park District boxing program. He was the first to introduce me to that mythical and masterful art of ism, aka spitting your program into the ear of a cooperating woman that you desire to acquire. But beyond that, I just leave this example to highlight the value of stepdads and how integral, as BGS Did pointed out, they were and are to our culture. And that's the most important takeaway that I want to leave here. The culture was always that guiding force and motivation behind the activities of the men within the culture. But something else happened. Something else came along and added another extenuating circumstance, this time from within the familial structure. And this was the introduction of external leverages that ultimately drove a further wedge between the women and the men within the familial structure. And shout out to the scholars who've shown up to bring the more scholarly references and their insights from within the institutions of higher learning that have been indoctrinating the entire Western society, not just the women of our culture, into a mindset that has them at odds for the leadership position within the familial structure with the very men who have, as a cultural practice, stepped up to cover, the holes produced by the very system that they're being indoctrinated into. Now, I won't get too far off into that particular tangent, but I'm just presenting more pieces to this broader puzzle that are coming together to structure the entirety of this conversation that we are having. Now, I want to play this other part of the clip because I believe it brings this entire point home. Here it is.
Once that little boy grows up, and once he, becomes educated and understands the context of why his village was unable to show him love in a way that he needed, he should work towards making sure that doesn't happen for other little boys just like him.
He can. And he can. And those are enlightened individuals. How many enlightened individuals do you really have in any group?
And there it is. There is the center point for the other side of this conversation. Understanding what enlightenment is to our tribe, how it is identified, how we can amplify it and express it throughout our philosophical teachings. Notice I said our philosophical teachings, because if we were to attempt to lean on the teachings of sort of the mainstream narrative, this is what we would be subjected to.
And, you know, and I don't like to comment too much on enlightenment because, you know, I don't really know what that is as a neurobiologist.
Well, that can be a longer conversation for another day. But let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, that enlightenment is the activity associated with the discovery of truth. And so when we discover that the men of our tribe from all over the national space have come up with similar, if not the same, challenging, negative, apathetic results from participating in a well-documented and a well-established cultural activity, we have no other choice other than to step back and observe what it is that is disrupting the effectiveness of this cultural activity known as the stepdad in our tribe. Gentlemen, as always, I appreciate your thoughts and comments and just relating your take on what's happened to this particular aspect of our culture in modern times. But the whole goal of this is to keep the conversation going progressively forward, and that's all this space really seeks to do at the end of the day. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and consider hopping over to the Patreon side where we go further in depth on subjects of this caliber and beyond. As always, this is your man, Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, saying, stay sharp and mission focused. Later.